They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In the world of software, if you want to go fast and far, go with a partner. Welcome to another episode of the CX Show. On this episode, we're speaking with one of our partners in Australia and New Zealand, enterprise-wide, and our guest is Ross Bark. Hi, Ross. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, Svetlana. Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
So, Ross, what are the benefits of working with a partner on an implementation project? Give me 3 reasons.
The first one, Svetlana, is people. The second one is experience. And the third one is process, really to drive the right outcome for the customer. So when I talk about people, I talk about people within a partner that have the industry knowledge and the expertise of supporting multiple businesses and industries, really to be able to optimize the implementation and set up the best capability for the technology. It really comes down to the experience from multiple implementations, the skills, the processes, the governance required from years of implementations with the technology, particularly legacy systems such as ERP and how they best interact into commerce. There can be multiple approaches and architectures in undertaking an implementation, and a partner really brings best practices based on their experience in the core competency of their service offering.
Enterprise-wide works with a number of SAP customers, and I'm wondering what are some of the challenges that they're facing when it comes to e-commerce and technology?
Being able to understand your customer and their ideal buying experiences and what their customers are expecting is really key. And importantly, what are the biggest pain points? What are the elements which may adversely affect a buyer's desire to purchase or repurchase? How do you make it easier for your customers to deal with you? And I think this is critical to understand, particularly for B2B customers, is you want to be able to empower them to make informed decisions as quickly as possible. Businesses can really be limited by their back-end processes that they currently have in place. And one of the key things that we found is that they can't provide enough compelling information on their site, particularly information that people want to see depending on their regional purpose. And product management and product content management is a big challenge, as ERP solutions, most legacy ERP solutions lack the rich product and customer content. For example, customers facing product descriptions you won't find in your ERP, attributes and content such as how-to guides and rich digital content such as videos. This is what drives a very strong buying experience. When you're integrating legacy systems and the data related to product and inventory and pricing, a business may have tons of data, right? But unless you actually have the tools to be able to extract that data and use it effectively and share the data in a usable way, it really becomes a very difficult thing for businesses. What I found is the only way for businesses to actually strive in meeting their customer engagement requirements is that they need to have a robust e-commerce platform that can unify that masses of data that's available, but also they need to have integration capability, which the platform can minimize the need for extensive work to be able to get that information and bring that together so it's surfaced correctly. And, leading e-commerce platforms are increasingly showing their competitive advantage, like the SAP Commerce Cloud, because they have the ability to integrate with other critical systems in a digital ecosystem. And recent research from Digital Commerce, which is an organization which provides information on what commerce is doing today, they show that 57% of B2B executives stated that e-commerce integration is the top technology that's needed for their business. If the business can get this right, they can present their competitive advantage over others, and they can use that platform to be able to mix that in with critical systems. And I think if you can unify the front end office and the back end, and with offline and online data across all the touch points, you can drive significant growth as a business.
On the previous episode, we had a conversation with Neville Richardson, Chief Information Officer at Gallagher, and he also mentioned that, for example, personalization was one of the key drivers for Gallagher to embark on the digital transformation journey and set up a proper e-commerce portal, as well as they needed to provide similar level of care for their B2B and B2C customers, and also they operate across different regions, so that, as you mentioned, for the product information could also be an issue. How could you help Gallagher to achieve all of these goals?
Well, it's interesting because Gallagher is a 75-plus-year-old business. They're one of the first inventors and innovators of electric fencing solutions, and today they're a global leader in providing animal management, security, and other systems, and they've had significant year-on-year growth. So the opportunity for them to automate their processes and offer new B2C and B2B selling channels, it was huge. And I think one of the things is, how do you actually take legacy systems? And Gallagher had a legacy system or commerce front-end portal that was over 14 years old. How do you take that and be able to bring that into what they're trying to do today and the growth that they're looking at into the future? So, for example, their animal management business requires a customer experience which is focused on providing electric fencing solutions for animal containment, and is specifically targeted towards farmers. So the key content and information for a farmer considering an electric fencing solution is to consider including asking questions such as, what animals do they want to control? Are they electrifying an existing fence or building a new one? What type of posts will they use for the electric fencing? And then on the other hand, their security business deals with and presents security readers and controllers and cloud-based applications, and their customers are corporations and governments and schools, requiring a customer experience that is specific to their needs and quite different, obviously, to animal management, because you're dealing also there with subscription services and online cloud-based solutions as well that they're putting forward. So using the SAP Commerce Platform technology, we implemented multiple B2C and B2B online portals. We presented the ability for them to have specific and differentiated product content, pricing, and online tools by region. And that's the key thing. So it wasn't just by business, it's also by the regions that those businesses operate in. And this has greatly supported their expansion into the US and Canadian market. And I think one of the key elements was the configuration of a comprehensive product catalog and being able to integrate Gallagher Group's commerce functions with other business systems that informs their business decisions and enhances their customer experience. I think a key focus for Gallagher Group was the ability to integrate this new solution with their existing CRM. As I mentioned before, without being able to do that, that shift to commerce for them across those regions would have been very difficult. So shifting to SAP Commerce Cloud has provided Gallagher Group with, one, a seamless integration. Two, it's improved the accessibility and visibility and speed of their various commercial processes, because there was a lot of manual intervention in processing orders, which limited their growth. And of course, they can now interconnect with other businesses and departments that informs business decisions and enhances that customer experience to allow them to grow even further and have a very specific front-end customer engagement solution for each of their businesses and the specific customers that deal with them as well.
For other customers like Gallagher, what are the opportunities out there to improve business agility while leveraging technology?
Well, I think the first thing is being able to leverage technology to provide a 360 view of your customers. B2B businesses need to have an ability to create a comprehensive view of customers. They need to understand what their interactions are. They need to understand what events and transactions are happening, the products purchased, and data about them from all the different stages in that purchasing process, whether it's an anonymous sort of buyer to a brand advocate. That is a key thing that I think, in terms of being able to take that from both an offline experience, because a lot of B2B customers and businesses work within stores, right? So they have branches, and a lot of that is driven by their existing salespeople as well. So if I go into a branch, I want to be able to understand the same deal, the same information, to when I go online, to when I talk to a customer service person. And the only way to do that is to be able to take that information and have that view of your customer wherever you are. So if I'm an in-store manager or an in-branch manager, I have the same information in terms of being able to make the right offer both on price, an understanding of inventory, an understanding of what that customer has bought before, how I can help them on a project, because it's not just one product they're buying. If I'm a farmer and I'm putting together an electric fencing solution, I might be buying 100 different products to make up that solution. I want advice and guidance in terms of what is the structure? What do I need for that project? How can you support me? How do I put it together? All of those things need to be seamless. If I go into branch, I can get advice from someone straight away. But if I go online, I want to be able to get the same information and the same advice. And in fact, I want to be able to have an enrichment of that information as well so that I can self-service. I don't need to speak to someone all the time. I can manage that accordingly. And I think one of the opportunities that leads into, Svetlana, is you need to be where your customers are. Because previously having a B2B portal, whether it did commerce online or not, you could view a catalogue, you could make some simple purchases, and you could view your orders and invoices. But the expectation now is a lot greater. I mean, as I said, it's akin to a face-to-face interaction in store. And the overarching aim when optimizing a process is to make it easier for your customers to deal with. Just getting back to Gallagher for a second, they are leveraging the power of the SAP Commerce Cloud platform to manage the complexities of their business relationships. And they're actually providing greater service and convenience to their customers. If you look at, for example, their customers, their company's security business, they are now offering personalized portals across 7 regions in Asia, in Australia, in Canada, in New Zealand, Europe, US, and they are servicing more than 20,000 monthly users going through the site now, which I think is a fantastic achievement to where they were before, and lends itself to the growth trajectory that they are on as a very old business, which is now dealing with very new technology.
Absolutely. You mentioned one very important point about understanding customers. What are some of the best practices for companies to communicate with their customers, and what is the best way for them to act on the feedback that they're getting?
I think one of the key questions, and I can answer that question with a question, is do you know what your customers really want, and how can you improve their experience? And we've talked a lot about that, but the best way to gather feedback and communicate to customers is firstly based on actually understanding their interactions with you, and then being able to start a conversation and communicate that. The first significant point of that is gathering feedback wherever they are, right? In store, through apps, websites, email, SMS, and other interactions, and then being able to take that feedback and make it widely accessible across your entire business, right? And be able to break down those organizational silos that you might have within your business. Because as an example, Gallagher has a security business, they have an animal management business. But what I encourage is that you can actually have a unified view of your customer's journey. So that can give different business unit opportunities for growth. And driven by that data, you can improve personalization across your business. And an example is you could use technology such as Qualtrics to be able to actually act on that feedback. So one is getting the feedback and having the information and data available in the insights. Then what you need to be able to do is be able to inform and use those insights to guide decisions for your business. And that could be around product development, new concepts, through to product design and communications, and your overall marketing strategy. And personalization is really vital in driving the best experience from your customers, because it's not just about sending an email and including a targeted recommendation. Because at the end of the day, how do you actually connect with cross-channel customer insights to activate an individual experience at every interaction? And to do that, you need to be able to make sure you understand that if there's a point of friction that is inconveniencing your customer, you know where that is. You have the information to support it within your business so that you can go out and actually make a change. And that change needs to happen really, really quickly as a business these days as well. It can't take a number of weeks to be able to analyze that data. In many cases, businesses are making changes in real time.
You started in talking already a little bit about this, and I'd like to continue. What does the future bring for B2B brands and their buyers?
Well, I think, Svetlana, one of the key things that the future brings for B2B brands is that capturing first-party data is a must-have going forward. So what I mean by first-party data is it's getting information direct from your customer and from your buyer that only you can access through your relationships with that customer, as opposed to getting it from a third party and not having control of that information, because it's actually becoming more important now as consumers are demanding and customers are demanding greater privacy. And we're seeing the data protection and privacy legislation around the world that is now mandating that. And what a lot of businesses, I don't think necessarily take into account is that cookies will be phased out in 2022. So now is the time to actually make sure your technology can support combining data with content that provides actionable insights. Because if you're not keeping up with that, you're going to lose the ability to personalize back to customers and to be able to interact with them. And you're not going to have the same capability that you have today. So if you can capture first-party data, you have the ability to interact and use that data in a much broader reach and a much broader way than you would have if it was coming from a third party. And the other thing is personalization. It's important now. It's going to become even more important going forward to provide the best experience for customers. And one of the things that we're seeing is it's not just personalization for personalization's sake. It's actually being able to provide the customer with more quicker and predictive buying, particularly when you're looking at B2B, because one of the key things that B2B relies on is that a buying process, which can be quite complex. Quoting tool processes. Quoting can be a complex process for many B2B businesses. But if you can improve and fasten the process for customers, and you can do that in such a way that you're providing and meeting their needs, you can drive higher conversion rates and improve the business for your customers very quickly. And that also drives fast and repeatable purchasing. It's something that's always been important to customers, and it actually sounds quite simple, but it actually can be very challenging for customers and businesses to manage. And it's even more relevant when you look at COVID, which is driving greater online purchasing as well. So my advice overall is to make sure that you as a business have the right technology to really react to something that you may not be aware of. Agility is key, and having the solution and technology to enable you to do that is extremely important. The questions that I think you need to ask as a key stakeholder in your business include, are you confident in your ability to adapt to a changing environment and respond to the unknown? Do you have a clear understanding of what your customers want? And most importantly, what journey do you want to take your customers on? Answering those questions as a business will give you clarity in understanding your current challenges and the outcomes that you need to be able to solve them. There's a well-known customer service and customer journey expert, and his name is Chip Bell. He once said, customers who are merely satisfied remain your customers only as long as everything goes according to plan or goes their way. So what we've talked about today is leveraging technology to grow your customer relationships above and beyond their initial needs.
That's a great way to wrap up our conversation. Ross, thank you so much for joining us on the show and providing these valuable insights. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for your time, Svetlana. I just want to say it's really satisfying working with our customers and with SAP to understand their challenges and driving the right outcomes for them and their customers, because the key thing is we're all here to provide effective strategies to support them.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. For additional information on what we covered today, please check out the description below and stay tuned for more great topics to come. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss anything. Spread the word and let us know what you think using the hashtag DCXShow. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Bye-bye.